So social procurement refers to how organizations in either the private or the public sector can use their purchasing power to generate positive social, economic, or environmental benefit. Basically, in going about business as usual, how do organizations purchase the goods and services that they need to operate and at the same time create positive impact for the communities that they serve? Victoria is recognized internationally as having one of the most progressive procurement policy contexts. So we have the Victorian Social Procurement Framework, we have the Local Jobs First policy with its connected major project skills guarantee. So there is a lot of opportunity in Victoria to engage in social procurement. When we talk about employment disadvantage, I think one of the things that we've seen, particularly over the last few months because of COVID, is the high levels of unemployment. But we know that the reality is that even before the pandemic, specific groups within the community were already disadvantaged in the labor market. So for example, you have people with disability who experience significant employment discrimination. You have people from refugee and migrant backgrounds, many of whom often lack local experience. And you have young people who may not possess the adequate skills and qualifications to make them competitive in the labor market. My research was really looking at how can social procurement help disadvantaged people find decent work, especially as we move forward and we try to find solutions, employment solutions post-COVID-19. I think it's really encouraging to see that the Victorian government is very enthusiastic about social procurement, and I think it's great to see Victoria being recognized internationally as having a very progressive social procurement policy context. I think when it comes to specifically looking at creating employment opportunities for disadvantaged job seekers, the government really needs to look at how can they help the suppliers that they have working on their major contracts to connect to those job seekers. And once those connections have been made, how can those job seekers be supported to succeed on those placements? The Australian government, both at the federal and the state and even at the local level, they spend millions of dollars a year procuring goods and services for public benefit. And so I think it's really important to think about what are some of the ways that we can leverage that money, leverage those contracts to also create employment opportunities for people who really need them.